This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. I want to mention Austin and Mero work again at the International Incident Show, which is another In Your House. It's a return match from King of the Ring, and Austin gets the win, but it almost feels like this crowd isn't really sure how to react. Austin's a heel, but they want to cheer him, but he's not really giving them a reason to cheer. It's almost like he's in a tweener phase, and that would continue through SummerSlam. No, he's not actually on SummerSlam. He's on the free-for-all, but it's against Yokozuna. And Meltzer's reporting in The Observer that Bret Hart, if he comes back to the WWF, he's handpicked Austin as his first opponent. So maybe they're just trying to keep Steve in the mix. But what that entails is Yokozuna goes up to the top rope, but because he's too heavy, the top rope breaks. Austin steals the win in just under 2 minutes. Not exactly maybe the type of win Austin would be looking for, but a pretty memorable moment here, nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, you know, Vince is taking real good care of Yoko creatively.
Yeah.
And to see Austin get that win was a shock, surprise, especially because of the length of the match, because of the ring malfunction. But no, we didn't want all the heat or the fire, little fire emoji, to be lost. So you had to keep Steve somewhat, he should have been on the card in a different role in hindsight, but he wasn't. So we made the best out of what we had. But that scenario with Yoko was very timely in the build of Stone Cold Steve Austin. People forget about it. It was, a lot of people didn't see it. Some people have never seen it because it wasn't on the pay-per-view. Now you can go back and stream the hell out of it.
Yeah. So the crowd's starting to cheer Steve a little more here. Brian Pillman, by the way, is now at least going to be on camera a little more, and they're at least teasing some things when they pass each other in the aisles and whatnot. And then Austin was scheduled to work Savio Vega at In Your House Buried Alive. We covered that recently in the archives, but it didn't happen because Vega wound up getting hurt, and instead he's replaced by Hunter Hearst Helmsley. But that's worth discussing a little bit. Savio was more of a babyface. Austin was more of a heel. But when Savio goes down, they don't get another babyface to replace him. They get another heel. They get Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So now we've got a heel match, but the crowd is solidly behind Austin. And it's interesting to think, these guys are going to go on to become, Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Cerebral Assassin and blah, blah, blah. But we see them early here in an all heel match. But boy, the fans don't want any part of that. They want to cheer Steve Austin. It's pretty fun to watch the evolution of this character.
Yeah, and nothing we could do, nothing those boys could do in that match was going to make it come out any different. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, Austin was finally getting what he wanted, that rebel, anti-establishment babyface who doesn't have to change how he works, but can lap up the perks of being a top babyface star in merch sales, etc. Because we're not talking about just a couple of bucks here on this merch sale thing. We're talking about a lot of money being changed hands. So, but yeah, Steve was, and Triple H wanted to be a heel. So there you go. Worked out fine.
Yeah.
I thought those guys they had good chemistry too. Steve and Hunter always had, I thought, good. I can't remember them having a stinker. And that's hard to say because they wrestle each other so much. Hey folks, it's time to take your podcast game to the next level. And you certainly want to get your almighty push. My God, we have to have a push, right? We'll get that over to adfreeshows.com. Now, I'm telling you, if you're a fan of Grilling JR, adfreeshows.com has the entire episode library, and it's got no ads. 0 ads, zilch, none. Ad-free and on video starting at just $9. Did you hear what I said? $9. You spend more than that at Starbucks, for God's sakes. 2 mornings. But that's not all, folks. We got tons of bonus content, including my after-hours roundtable, where drinking was involved with Eric and Tony. You simply will not find a better value in all of wrestling. Hey, look, don't make me go red ass, because by God, you know I will. Hurry over to adfreeshows.com right now and sign up. And I thank you.
it's an unbelievable match that we're building towards Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart. I know we've talked about it before, but I want to play the promo because it's an interesting change of pace. You know, you shoot Stone Cold Steve Austin in what looks like what's all black and white, and it looks like a pretty rough area, and he's just running that mouth in classic Stone Cold fashion. Let's take a listen, because this is one heck of a promo package that you put together for this show. In theory, it would play now. Here we go.
In 3, 2.
What the hell is that all about, this Bret? No ballet class. Sunglasses and sparklers. What a load of crap. So Bret, you're coming back to continue a legacy? Stone Cold's going to make your comeback a living hell. You can start begging for some mercy now. Beg for mercy. You're not going to find it. I think you're completely pathetic. The best there is, was, and ever will be, whatever. Son, you're looking at the best there is. Austin 316. Oh, Bret, the whole world knows that you quit because you lost to Shawn Michaels. The pretty boy, boy toy. Kicked your ass back to Canada. You couldn't face yourself, and you damn sure couldn't face your family. The way you changed. Picked another time to come back, son. No sexy when the bell rings and it's time to get down to business, I'm going to take 7 years of frustration and being pissed off out on your ass. Think about it like this, Bret. You can finally go home, look yourself in the mirror, and get a little peace of mind, because you will know you were indeed beaten by a real man.
I mean, I'm ready to go watch that match again right now.
Yeah, those two guys have a future. You know, Steve, there's a beautiful part about that too. I was listening to somebody on Busted Open recently talk about being in NXT and then being on in other companies that have TV, like Impact or somewhere. Whereas Impact gave him some bullet points, and he went out there and did his own promo, and he felt good about it. And in NXT, the thing that they were worried about is missing a line, because then the writers would take exception that you're doing it on purpose. You're screwing up my copy. My work of art is being compromised. Give me a fucking break. You guys got to be shitting me. How anybody could really think that you're doing a talent a favor by writing out their promo, telling them how they should think. Well, instead of it being a pro, or somebody that has a lot of experience, those thoughts are coming out of some kid's mind. They're a writer's, it's a writer's creation. And I don't know how many, I don't know. It seems to me ill-fated, but I might be wrong about that. But I know one thing. I always hated to come to TV and have a script. I got to do a promo, and here's what they want you to say. Because I'm an ad-lib guy, as you know, and for better or for worse. But golly, man, let me see what we got in these guys. And that's what Vince finally did with Steve. He saw the audience is buying everything Austin said. So Vince started creating, making sure creative, like that video and that interview you just played. It was all refined. It was all strategic, and it enhanced Steve's image that he wanted. And Vince was sold. That was that promo, and how it was approved and how it was done was a great illustration, maybe the best illustration we've talked about today, of Vince's increased trust in Stone Cold.
Yes.
And him realizing, look, we're not going to screw this deal up. And luckily we didn't.
The way it was shot, the language they let him get away with, the whole thing, it made it feel like a main event, and it's just the co-main event, but he and Bret stole the show. And then of course, Shawn and Sid, had Sid's best match ever and a world title switch, and really a pretty monumental show here, Survivor Series 96. I do want to mention something, because on the heels of that match, you're at the desk and you're saying Bret Hart brought his A game. There was no ring rust. He needed every bit of it to beat Stone Cold. That sort of line of thinking. And then when you get finished, Vince says, I totally disagree. Now that's a different thing thing that we didn't normally see from Vince. Normally, and years later, of course, he would be in the backstage area and yelling in your headset, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're selling your ass off here, and now the owner of the company at your left elbow just says, I totally disagree. Boy, he's not leaving you a lot of wiggle room there, is he?
No, I don't mind it at all because I was more popular than Vince.
For sure.
So, and I gave Steve an out.
Yes.
Bret Hart didn't come back as a wounded animal and limp out of there with a win.
Right.
He had his A game. He was as good as he ever was. And on a given night, the outcome could be very different. You've always got to give the guy doing the job, doing the honors.
Give him an out.
You got to.
Yeah.
You got to make him a little bit whole. I tell announcers that all the time. You'd be very surprised the announcers in pro wrestling that contact me for a tip or advice. It might not make all their employers happy, but they're looking for guidance. That's all. Feedback, positive feedback. And, but Steve was certainly had created this image that he had fought so hard for. And it looked like many times he was not going to be successful, but he refused to lose. Just refused.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.